All right, good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Everybody good? Thanksgiving's this week? Yes, it is. I know that some have taken off on their travels already. And so if you're traveling this week, I pray you be safe and that your time with family would be amazing. Lisa and I are looking forward to some time. We're like, hey, let's have Thanksgiving as a family. But then Anna and Jacob went to France. So we're going to Pismo, which is almost like France, the south of France or something. So it's impossible to say what is the most photographed tree in the world. Some say it's the cypress in Monterey. Have you seen this one? It's called the lonely cypress tree, and it's so lonely it's not even on the screen. Others might say that it's the Jeffrey pine in nearby Yosemite that kind of has its own, while others may say it's a willow in Lake Wanaka in New Zealand. Even if you've never seen these trees before, they do something within us potentially. They're kind of alone. They are on rocks. There's like a vista behind them. And each one of them, they believe, are people that are drawn to looking at them because they think that maybe this tree is telling a story or the person is finding their own story and looking at this tree. Author Will Storr wrote this: "These trees trigger something in the photographer's subconscious which gives them a pleasurable hit of feeling. Maybe lonely, brave, relentless, and beautiful. Those who stop and snap are not taking pictures of trees, but of themselves." I'm not so sure about all of that, but there's something that draws us to what is this mean? In other words, when people see these trees, they connect with what they perceive might be happening or is happening, or just wondering, how is this tree standing on its own? And that's what we've been talking about, not trees per se, but the stories. And the stories that people tell, and the stories that we have. And we're in the final week of this series that we've been going through about stories. The first week we talked about a few weeks ago was the power of Jesus' stories, and that's what he did. He told stories that connected to a kingdom, and then he said, now you go out and tell a story. The second week, we talked about the power that it's not just Jesus that's a good storyteller, but the enemy is a good storyteller, telling us lies, and then the things that we make up, and the things that we perceive, and the things that we're sure about through a text or through a look. We start to create stories about other people, and we hold them accountable to things that maybe they never knew. And last week, Govan told just a powerful story and spoke so well just around Peter's story and his own, and the power of us having to own our story. And when we're honest with ourselves, we start to see what beauty can really be like. Today, like Danny shared, is a little bit different. And it's different in the fact that a major section of our time together, or at least the time that I take, will be for you to hear a story. Because I don't want to just talk about stories. I don't want just to share some of my own, which you have heard, but I want you to hear a story. A story that maybe you know, that you've been around a while here at Calvary, if you've been around 20 plus years or so. But it also might be a story that you haven't heard. There's a couple in our church, Josh and Tara. Josh and Tara met in the high school group 25 years ago, maybe. They were in my youth group. And they got to know each other, and after high school, they fell in love. Maybe it was in high school, but they said it was after high school. They fell in love. They had dreams of doing ministry together. Josh was an intern here with us. They had dreams about what God had for them, of doing ministry or doing missions and doing these things. And they fell in love and they got engaged. And then the story goes from there. I had a chance to sit down with them and just talk with them and interview them a little bit. So here is the story of Josh and Tara. And when it's done, I'll come back up.
we went on a missions trip, and just there we found out that we just had a bond.
Yeah.
We started to date and realized, hey, this is something we want. We were serious about, and we wanted to share our lives with each other. So Tara moved out to Colorado to finish school.
That's right.
And I followed her out there and got a job just at a small church as a youth pastor.
Yeah.
We got engaged, and the plan was to start life out there. And we fell in love, and we knew we wanted to spend our lives together.
Josh was an intern for us. You worked with me, and I remember those days. I was so excited for you and for that job, to get the job out in Colorado. And when you guys got engaged, I got the privilege of doing your wedding, and it was such a beautiful. It was coolest.
Coolest guy ever.
Yeah, that's why you asked me, because I'm the coolest guy ever. Yeah. Yeah. So you guys went on your honeymoon, had an amazing time, and then on your way home from your honeymoon, driving back to Colorado, we pick up the story a little bit there.
I mean, we went on a honeymoon. We had our car kind of packed with our stuff, some wedding presents and different things, and driving back to Colorado. It kind of happened so quick, we don't really know, but basically a car coming the other way on the freeway came across they were doing road construction, so there wasn't really a median. They came across the other way, and what it was described to us is the car was, he had lost control, and he was going home to his kid's birthday party. So I don't think it was a drunk drive or anything. Ultimately, I think it was a car failure. But he was driving, and when he hit us, he actually was it sounded like he was upside down and kind of landed on top of our car. Tara was driving at the time. We were kind of switched off some. His car caught on fire, and there was explosions, and I mean, it's kind of what you think of, like a movie kind of thing would happen, that it was just actually happening, and it shut down a freeway for hours, and there was, his car ended up next to us on fire, and it lit our car on fire as well. And some random person came by with their truck and pushed our car out of the way.
An angel.
Looking back at it, obviously during the situation, but looking back at it, there's so many little things that happened, and even at the accident, there was people that were helping us, and I was able to get out of the car with just a few broken bones and cuts and scrapes and stuff. Tara was trapped in the car and had to get jaws of life, and got helicopter to hospital, and so it was pretty. Our plans changed in an instant.
Yeah. So she gets helicoptered to the hospital in Utah, right?
Yeah, it happened in Utah, right outside Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And then I got an ambulance, and so we were kind of far away, but we were also close to one of the best hospitals.
Yeah.
If it would have happened, in the middle of Nevada, it might have been too long, or it was only a 10-minute helicopter ride or whatever to one of the top hospitals in the area. And
so she goes to Utah, to this hospital, and what's her condition?
First it was hey, we just got to get this. She had swelling in her brain that they had to
Was I unconscious?
Yeah, you're unconscious the whole time.
Yeah.
But she had swelling in her brain that was we got to take care of this first, and that we just didn't know a whole lot at the beginning.
Yeah.
But definitely knew it was really serious.
Yeah. Was she in a medically induced coma, or was she
initially
coma? Talk about that.
Initially she was. It was. Yeah. So they were giving her medication that she wouldn't wake up, because she would have just been in a lot of pain in the brain, and you didn't want to have any stuff. But once they they were actually able the pressure to go down and kind of stabilize her, and they took her off stuff. She's still, at that point, she was still her body was in a coma, and she had a ventilator that was helping her breathe, and IVs, and it was kind of all kinds of just tubes and IVs and monitors and everything hooked up to her.
As you look back on that, Josh, what do you remember? It was a while ago, and I know that was traumatic for you, but what do you remember some of your thoughts?
Just I think we moved from one ICU to another. She was in the burn ICU for a while, and she was in the just a regular ICU. Then she moved to they had like a brain injury,
Yeah.
like traumatic unit that she was in, and kind of just got, for the first really for the first 2 or 3 weeks, it was just kind of nothing but bad news. Like,
Yeah.
there wasn't like one pinpointed spot in her brain that like got injured. They couldn't say, oh, this part's damaged. It was like, basically they said the whole brain got like just sheared and moved around. And so they could see that there was like trauma and there was like things got, disrupted, but it wasn't like we can focus on this one thing. And, just hear different things the doctors saying, she could never really come back, like, to be able to do anything, or if she does, it's going to be really limited, or she won't be able to walk or do things on herself. Like, she might be in a nursing home for, for the rest of her life.
Yep.
And so a lot of just, that was kind of what we heard from pretty much everybody. Another crazy part of this, we didn't really have, she had school insurance, but school had kind of ended, so that insurance was kind of up. So she didn't really have any like really strong insurance that would cover this. But from before, she had got on like some California like Medi-Cal stuff, and we thought it was expired, and we got like a random envelope in the mail, and one of the people at the hospital like called and like said, oh, like, is this still good? And because they were moving offices or something, they're like, yeah, we can, like, we'll just press a few buttons. And she was signed up, and she was on it was like Children's Medi-Cal. They actually flew her back to San Jose when she was still in a coma, to Valley Medical, which has they have a really, really good traumatic brain injury unit there. One of the things I remember there is we got there, and they kind of put her in one area and they were going to move her, and one of the doctors told me, he's like, yeah, with the state she's in and where she's at, like, there's only like 2 different insurance companies that would have ever, it was like some specialty insurance company, and then this Children's Medi-Cal that would have ever let her into the unit. Like a week later, it was like, because of the stuff they were doing and just where she was at, it was like she started to wake up and do things, and it was like, I'm not sure if we didn't fly here and get moved, because we were about ready to move in Utah. We were about ready to go to a nursing home, basically, or like a full-time care facility. And then we flew here and got in this other unit, and I think that was a big part of it too. Is like, but that was a lot of prayers from people, and just the fact that she was able to get in there, and it went from pretty like not seeing anything to just things starting to come back to her starting to move her head and eyes and whisper things, and
she started to wake up.
Yeah, so in that process was probably another 6 or 8 weeks. I think all said and done, you were in the hospital for like 3 months. But one of your goals was, I'm going to walk out of the hospital, and you did.
Yeah.
So,
man, a lot was not what you were anticipating for your life and for the journey. And I don't want to just jump to like, hey, how's it been since then? But talk about the journey for you, Tara. At what point do you like? How far back can you remember and start to engage with things?
I remember waking up in the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, before that, the first thing I remember is Josh moving out to Colorado.
Yeah.
And it was like Thanksgiving, I think. So that's like November. The accident happened June 1st. So it's like an etch-a-sketch because my brain was shaking, right?
Yeah.
But all of that is gone, including the wedding. I don't remember any of it. I see pictures, and I looked good. So that's that's what a bride needs to be, right?
That's
but
right.
Everything else, I don't connect to those pictures at all. Or it's weird.
Yeah.
Having a piece of your life erased.
Yeah.
But like he said, my goal was to walk out of the hospital. I actually remember the conversation I had with the physical therapist when he said, if you work really hard, you can walk out of here. I'm like, I'm going to run out of here. And I actually danced out. It was like recorded, because one of the cool things about this is it happened right after our wedding. So it was big news. It was like, it got covered by news stations from here to Utah. You know what that did? That just provided so much prayer.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I'm better, or that's why I survived, is because, you know, people cried out, and God is like, I got her, you know, and so yeah, and then after the fact we were on Good Morning America, which was so cool, because here it was on the news before, but then it's like, hello, you know, God saves, because that was a miracle.
Yeah. What are some things you want people to know about your own journey with God, about your own journey with, you know, with all these things? What are some things you just would want people to know?
I remember waking up in the hospital, and let me tell you, it is terrifying when you can't move.
Yeah.
I couldn't move. And waking up in the hospital, I felt God with me. That's why I got better. And I'm so lucky, because some people don't have God and didn't know he was with them. And I want to get better. And I'll put it this way, like, I actually remember this being one, like, being able to do this was a good, like, a big thing. Being able to, like, move my finger. And I had a wonderful guy next to me, and if he complains about back problems at all, he basically slept upright in a chair, hospital chair, every night after I woke up.
Yeah.
Until he was there with me.
Yeah. This may seem like a weird question, Josh, but, like, why? Why did you stay committed to her like you did during those moments?
You know, you hear, people get divorced a couple years after something like this. I don't know. I don't think I ever, like, that part of it never seemed like it was not that it was an option, but it never, you know, if I was driving the car and she was on the other side of it, like, she would have done the same for me. Not that it was just, like, the right thing to do. It's just, like, that's, and then it's just that, like, I think I remember even talking to you about it is, like, when you get married, like, when you get married and God's part of that and you bring him into that relationship, you know, the Bible talks about, like, that there's a bond between the husband and wife, and you become one.
The two become one.
And so that was, like, it was very real, like, just from right there. It's like, man, that's a part of me. I don't know, that's how it felt right off the bat. And it was, I mean, I know the first time I remember, like, really saying, oh, like, this is my wife, was I remember, like, when the accident happened, we were on the side of the road, and, like, you know, I was trying to ask people, is my wife dead? Is she? And, like, then I was like, man, that's first time I think I've, like, said that out loud, like, that my wife or whatever. You know, we could tell you a million other stories about, like, things aren't perfect, and we've had our struggles, and but leaving or just not being there for her was never really it's never felt like it was even a thing. So
love it. So from that point, you've gone on, and God's done some amazing things in your life, and difficult times, like Josh said, but also, like, you went on and got your master's. Yes. You sing with our worship team. I remember journeying with you guys, even about talking about family at one point, and just not knowing how that was ever going to work, and how could we raise a child? Is Tara going to be able, you know, just all the things, right? And so, and getting to a point where we just weren't sure. And you have a beautiful, vivacious, full of life 5-year-old kindergartner right now. And looking at those things, it's pretty amazing. The question I want to ask you, and we can finish up, is like, what would you tell someone who's going through some tough times?
So you go through certain things and you don't think there's anybody you can talk to about it. I think that was kind of like that was a big part of like life afterwards. I think like looking back at it, it's like, man, I wish because we kind of bounced around some different churches and didn't go to church for a while, and just because we were, whether it was just upset because the future we didn't have, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
And even now, I think we're still working through all that stuff. But I think the biggest thing was just like, man, I wish I just talked to more people, and you never know. Everybody's going through stuff, and I think it's just it may not be maybe a little bit different situation, but everybody's going through hard things and how they deal with it, and I think we took more of an isolationist kind of route to it, and at least I know I did for sure. I don't, and I wish I wouldn't have closed off so much.
I wouldn't be here. I mean, literally, and I wouldn't be at this point if I didn't have God. And I'm really blessed to have had a relationship before. And I mean, like you said about not talking with everyone, but one of the hardest things to have to accept is that people pull away because it's hard for them. They don't know how to approach it. And it's like, it's hard for you. And that sounds horrible, but like, it's hard to understand how like you lose friends because it's hard for them. And I mean, psychologically it makes sense or whatever, but like, I'm just saying it's easy to get resentful. And resentment doesn't help anyone or anything.
Wow.
And so my encouragement was to find a way past that. And it's not like you can just decide, but, write out your resentment and face it, because that's the only way to get past it. And there's nothing as hindering as being resentful. And like I said, it is step by step. And you need to... I said that this was a huge accomplishment, but I actually get to remember weaning off air support and my feeding tube and all this stuff. I actually can remember, having to be kept alive by stuff and getting to the point where I could do stuff on my own just to start out with. And with that, you need to value every little step.
That's good.
It might seem like nothing, or if you compare to someone else, it might not seem adequate, but like every little step gets you there. It's not about my story. It's about, facing what you have going on. Like Dale said, everyone has stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it's not any less because it wasn't a car accident. It's not any, less hurtful or harder to get through because you didn't have a severe head injury. It's not about that. It's about everyone has stuff, no matter what. It isn't about comparing. It's about, facing what you have going on. And luckily I had God right there holding me up and as my main support.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would have gone through it without God.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have. I would have turned another direction and so, but instead a great life has come to fruition, and we have each other's backs, and we have an amazing girl.
I was there. I've seen the video a few times, and I'm still. There's a couple things that I want to say, just around stories. And Josh and Tara, thanks for sharing. There's a few things about what happens when we hear someone's story, and because you've heard their story, when you're at church and you see Tara up here leading worship with our team, you know that there's a depth of what God has done in her, and what she is singing and leading us about is real to her. And she wants it to be real to you. And because you've heard their story, when you see their new life and you see their 5-year-old daughter running around church, you go, that's a mark of new life. And because you've heard their story, and this is the real value of the stories we tell, and their openness and their vulnerability, you can learn deep wisdom from them. Because there's a value of sharing and looking back with wisdom. Let me wrap up and close with this. Paul wrote a letter to the people of Corinth. And in this letter, he's writing this. He says, "You yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, known and read by everyone. You show that you are a letter from Christ, the result of our ministry, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts." In the first century, the letters that were written and the stories that were told were everything. They meant so much to the church because it's all that they had. And it's very clear that Paul is writing that the people's stories were written on their hearts and being sent from place to place. And that our story of what God has done in our life is essential. Your story is a letter written by Christ, intended for somebody else. It's meant to be shared so that others can see what God has done in you and that you can hear what God is at work in. I truly believe in today's day and age of unprecedented disagreement, divide, verbal attack, the opportunity that we have to tell stories about the goodness of God in many ways is a new way of apologetics, of defending who God is. It's not everything about defending, but it's simply saying, in the midst of divide and disagreement, let me tell you what God has done. Storytelling matters because it's the gospel. It's a reflection of what it means to be a follower of Jesus. Every single one of us are on a journey. Every single one of us are on a road, are we not? There are ups and downs. There are joys and there are disappointments. The storytelling that God has invited us to do isn't simply to say, hey, there's a road, but it's to say, join me on mine and I'll join you on yours as God joins us. And there's a connection and a commitment to do it together. The phrase that I want to end us with is this: come and see the goodness of God. No matter how hard life gets, no matter how joyful life can be, the stories we tell either say, come and see the goodness of God, or come and see the bitterness that I've acquired. We have a choice. Let me pray for you as we go. Father, I thank you for my friends and my family, your church, Father. May they know the height and width and depth of your love for them. May they know that there is a way when we think there is no way, that you are the healer, that you are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So I pray that your Spirit would fill them. May they know the same Spirit that rose Christ from the dead is alive and well in them in every situation this week. We love you. In your name, amen. God bless you all. Have a great, great day. Let's pray.